X that he received a call from Prime Minister Mark Carney of Canada, and glad to receive the call. And Prime Minister congratulated Carney on his recent election victory and thanked him for the invitation to the G7 summit in Kananaskis later this month. As vibrant democracies bound by deep people-to-people ties, India and Canada will work together with renewed vigor, guided by mutual respect and shared interests. Prime Minister says, look forward to our meeting at the summit. So which means Prime Minister has accepted his participation at the G7 summit on an invite from Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney. Remember, there were some reports that Prime Minister has been left out, and had it happened, this would have been the first time in the last 8 years that India would not have been invited to a G7 summit. Prime Minister Modi has been a regular attendee of G7 summits since 2015-16, and Canada now busting those fake media reports that Prime Minister has not been invited. In fact, Congress jumped the gun yesterday, saying that is it not a failure of Indian diplomacy? But Mark Carney, despite the India-Canada relationship not in the best of shape, inviting Prime Minister Modi, and that really gives you an idea of the kind of heft that India has in the Committee of Nations. Akanksha joins us live from the newsroom for more on this. Akanksha, Prime Minister really coming out with that post, really calls the propaganda of Congress party, and they clearly were playing with India's foreign policy position by connecting the unconnected domains of an invite from Canada and Indian foreign policy response.
Well, absolutely. You see, India has been invited to join the summit every year since 2019, and this time also Prime Minister has been invited. In a social media post, in fact, let me quote what he has stated. He has said, glad to receive a call from the Prime Minister of Canada, congratulated him on the recent election victory and thanked him for the invitation to the G7 summit later this month. As vibrant democracies bound by deep people-to-people ties, India and Canada will work together with renewed vigor, guided by mutual respect and shared interest. Looking forward to our meeting at the summit. So this crucial, in fact, summit will take place starting June 15th. But this is very important because India has been getting such invitations since 2019. And this is, in fact, a grouping of 7 of the world's richest countries, including US, UK, Germany, France, Italy, Canada, and Japan. So now the Prime Minister has confirmed that he has also, in fact, been invited, and he will be going to the summit in the coming weeks.
Right, Akanksha, and more significantly, you know, the fact that Prime Minister got the invite despite India and Canada not being on the best of terms as yet, given the headwinds from Trudeau time. The fact that Mark Carney has gone ahead and invited Prime Minister Modi also shows that at some level, Canada also wants, Ottawa also wants to tidy up its equation with New Delhi.
Well, absolutely. After what we witnessed in the last few months, after the Trudeau dispensation has now gone away, now with the new dispensation, now it appears that the relations are now improving. And with the invitation to the G7 summit, it appears that the relationship between India and Canada with the new dispensation coming in is completely improving. In fact, in the social media post as well, Prime Minister, in fact, congratulated the newly elected Prime Minister on his recent election victory, thanked him for the invitation. He said that both the countries are vibrant democracies bound by deep people ties, and both the countries will now work together. But earlier, in fact, we also saw a skirmish between...
Right, Akanksha? And we also have, I believe, Kartarth with you in the newsroom. Kartarth, what are the chances that as much as G7, this is Mark Carney trying to get the India-Canada equation back on an even plane? Krutarth?
Indeed, Abhishek, and it is a big breaking development that is coming in because India and Canada ties have been extremely strained in the past. We have seen ever since Justin Trudeau was changed and Mark Carney came into the picture, the Canadian government's entire modus operandi in terms of diplomatic ties, which at the moment stand at a historic low between India and Canada, was something that was brought under question. Now look at the timing of this entire situation happening. The G7 summit is on the next Sunday. Today is Friday. The window was extremely narrow. It was only the next 2 possible days in which perhaps Canada could have extended an invitation, and if not, then it would have been a historical fact that for the first time in 6 years, Prime Minister Narendra Modi would not have been invited to the G7 summit. Even last year, we know that despite of his swearing-in ceremony on June 9th, on June 14th, Prime Minister Modi was standing in Italy, center of that photograph that was taken along with Pope Francis and a lot of great state dignitaries arriving with Giorgia Meloni over there, and he was invited and he went there just 5 days after his swearing-in ceremony. That is how significant the G7 meeting also becomes when the group of 7 nations come together. Now also, as a matter of fact, that India has now surpassed Japan and has become the 4th largest economy of the entire world. To carry on a G7 meeting and break almost the tradition of inviting India as a special invitee was something that Mark Carney did not afford to do as a Canadian Prime Minister, because remember, he's also leading a minority government. There is also a very key vote coming up in the Canadian Parliament on the monarch address that was given, and perhaps at the time at which the opposition also is very much strong on Mark Carney's case, to further deteriorate the India and Canada bilateral relationship, which was not at the best during Justin Trudeau's tenure, was something that Mark Carney could not afford. However, it will be noted in the diplomatic circles on how this last moment invitation has been extended. It is very much important to see what diplomatic repercussions take place. However, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has acted as a great statesman and has accepted the invitation, even given at such late notice. And
Right, Krutarth. Thank you so much. The Prime Minister there with that post announcing that he has received an invite from the Canadian Prime Minister to participate in the G7 summit, and he would indeed be going.